Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about where I'd put the Admirals in terms of strength and are they underrated or overrated. Ever since the battle on the roof and especially the Scabbards versus Kaido, I've seen that a lot of people have slowly changed their perspective on Admirals versus Yonko. Are they near the Yonko in strength? How many of them does it take to beat one Yonko? Well, in today's video, I'm going to give you guys my take on it, but if you guys could please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell, it'll be greatly appreciated. It only takes a few seconds and makes a tremendous difference. Comment down below and let me know what's your take on the Admirals versus Yonko debate. How close are they in relation to the Yonko? Do you have any of the Admirals over any of the Yonko? Or do you have all the 4 Yonko over the Admirals? Now, before we get any further, I do want to say right now that I do think that the Admirals are on a similar level. Throughout the story when I was reading, I never thought there was a huge gap. It's just how I seen the story. But a little after, I actually sat down and made reasonings on why, and that is this video now. Reminder, my goal isn't to necessarily get you to think that they're Yonko level or anything, but I'm just trying to convince you that maybe they're stronger than you actually think. I want to talk about the counter arguments first and what my counter arguments for them are. The first, and a really small one to be honest, is the misconception that a panel said the Yonko are the 4 strongest pirates that stand on top of the world, and the thought that there's no marine that can rival them one-on-one. Now this is largely due to either a weird translation or a misconception, but the panel people referred to actually say the Yonko are the 4 greatest pirates. With this in mind, I believe it's fair to say that they're clearly 4 of the strongest pirates, but I don't think they're unrivaled individually. The second argument is if the Admirals were as strong as the Yonko, then why wouldn't they have gone 2 or 3 deep and beat the Yonko? Well, I have a few reasons why I don't think this is fair towards the Admirals. The first is strategy. If casualties are going to take place, you can't just rush in. Blackbeard's entire crew ran from one man, Akainu, but does that one thing automatically mean he beat the whole crew by himself? Now some people do try and say that, but that's besides the point. CP0 made the revolutionaries also retreat, but that doesn't mean they're automatically above the revolutionaries. On top of this, it seems the Yonko system is actually something made to benefit the Marines. We know that Law, Luffy, and Kid's crew are in direct opposition to Kaido, right? And they're destined to take these Yonko out, but the Yonko system is made to scare upstart pirates into becoming something greater than these Yonko. The story tells us that in the new world, you either join and fall under the Yonko or die by them. Them being the Yonko brings a balance that Whitebeard himself maintained while he was alive. So why would they actively go out and chase these people that are keeping the balance and stand in the way of these upstart pirates from becoming something bigger than a Yonko? Which is something that Luffy and his generation are destined to become. But the Yonko system does indeed help with this. The final argument is Marineford, and more importantly the Akainu versus Whitebeard fight. The reason it looks so unbalanced in Marineford, and this is something I mentioned in my Smoker video, go check that out if you haven't, is that Garp, Sengoku, Mihawk, Doflamingo, Boa, Aokiji, and Kizaru either weren't fighting at all or barely had any damage on them after the war was over. The story tells us that the Marines plus the warlords are supposed to balance out the 4 Yonko, but pirates are pirates, people are people. Some people don't want to fight for other reasons besides they're not strong enough. We've seen how much damage Akainu did and didn't have any critical injuries on him despite taking attacks from the world's strongest devil fruit. And this will segue more into the reason on why I think they are strong, but I think it's a bit unfair to downplay the stronger side of the Marines because the fact that Akainu did as much damage as he did without being out of commission at the end of the arc and not having critical injuries to me means that an Admiral can at least hang with a Yonko. The same way people say if the Admirals are as strong as the Yonko, why don't they go seek them out? The same argument can be used in reverse. If a Yonko pulls up to Marineford or pulls up on a fleet with an Admiral on it, if he cannot at least hang with them, where's the balance in that? Some people may say Akainu lost to Marineford when he fell into the crater, and I do agree. He lost that exchange, but a lot of people don't take into account how after this he went after Luffy and then has an off-screen fight with Marco and the remainder of the commanders, beats or kills one of them, stalemates the rest, and still isn't really damaged to the point where he couldn't fight after. Now, whether you think the Whitebeard he fought was in the same range as the Yonko or not, that's up to you. But for a fact, he fought a Yonko that was fresh for the state he was in at the time, and fought a Whitebeard who was, quote, bloodlusted. It's up to you whether or not you take this into account, but I do think that Whitebeard was insanely strong and at least had the strength of one of the strongest men in the world, for he still had his devil fruit which hadn't depleted over time. Now, Akainu is the one we have the most feats to show for, so I won't use his feats and try to apply it to the other Admirals, but I do feel like they're the most equally portrayed. Like the Yonko are just the 4 greatest pirates, and in the Bounty Rio chapter, All the captains had vastly different types of portrayal, and as for the admirals, they were all described as being monsters in their own right, and are even all three called the main fighting force of the Marines. So I feel like the gap between the admirals are smaller than all the Yonkos, as you don't have to be a singular level to be a Yonko. There's a lot of other things that are taken into account, but with the admirals, they are the main fighting force, and even some people skip to the draft because they were closer to the strength of an admiral. I can in full confidence say that through Akainu and Aokiji's fight, that they both got stronger. If what Rayleigh's saying is right, that could possibly be the biggest growth in strength that we see in the story. Luffy in a 12-hour bout got stronger and learned a future sight, so you can only imagine how strong they got from a 10-day fight. And although this may only be a representation of Akainu and Aokiji's betrayal, I do think the other three have some really good betrayal as well. Kizaru was confident in him moving into Wano, and in Marineford he looked pretty clean the entire way through, even feeling confident enough to attack the Straw Hats even after Ben Beckman, someone who was stated to be comparable to Shanks, a Yonko, told him to stay put. And we don't know anything about Green Bull, but Fuji on the other hand has one of the most overpowered fruits we've seen, insane observation haki, and even makes someone like Sabo get tired out, someone who has Ace's Devil Fruit and is an advanced armament haki user, without even really trying. Some people will use this against him, but he couldn't really do anything. The situation he was in, he wants the pirates to beat the warlord, but he also can't fight as he wants to stay in the Marines to take the warlord system down. And I know Green Bull hasn't done anything, but from him and Fujitori's interaction in Marijois, I can say they have about equal betrayal because Green Bull was going to fight him, but Fujitori said that they destroyed Marijois if they fought, so he didn't want to do it. Another thing, and the point I'm going to wrap the video up on, is the place in the story that admirals are going to be when we finally see him in full effect. A lot of people think Luffy's first one-on-one against the Yonko is going to be Big Mom and Elbaf, and assuming it's the next arc, it'll be before the final war. And what happens if a Yonko level Luffy fights Akainu, and through that fight we see that they are both a similar tier in that fight. Now, a lot of people don't think Luffy's fight is going to be Akainu, they think Sabo is going to fight Akainu, but the level Sabo was at Dressrosa, a lot of people, and I too, think he surely would have grown by now. Me personally, I don't think Sabo being the one to fight Akainu should change the way we see him, but let me know how you feel about it. Does your stance on Akainu and the Admirals change if he fights Sabo or Luffy? So if the Admiral fights, that being Akainu and Luffy and or Sabo, and Kizaru versus Zoro, etc., happen after Luffy has already grown to this enormous level, and is the last step for Zoro to become the strongest swordsman, the last fight before Mihawk, a Yonko level character. I don't see how the gap between these two groups has to be so wide that it's impossible for them to do anything to the Yonko. And as I close this video out, please let me know how you guys liked the video in the comments, hit that like button and subscribe and turn on post notifications, and until next time, peace.